Hi, this is Kara from the Special Needs Mom podcast.
And this is Angela from Especially Organized, Sensible Solutions for Special Needs Moms.
We have this heart for special needs moms. And so we thought, you know what, let's combine forces. And we have come up with what we're calling the Purge Party. And you can pretty much guess what it is. It's a party where we're going to come together and we're going to purge or, in general, accomplish a goal, a small goal together. So we have set this for January 27th, starting at 8 o'clock for my Pacific Coast people,
which means 11 o'clock for all of you on the East Coast. So this is an opportunity. If you have something on your to-do list that has just been stuck there and you are wanting to move it up on the list, you're wanting to tackle, maybe it's a space or an area of your home or a category in your home that has just needed a little time and attention. This is your opportunity for you to be online with us while you work and have access for us to help you answer your questions, help guide you, and just serve you for those 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you can tell like what we've designed is just this very high level of support for that project that you just haven't been able to tackle on your own. The thing that we are envisioning is that you get to leave this purge party feeling so accomplished because you did the thing. You started the year off getting that thing done that you were stuck on last year. And so it's a momentum builder, if you will. You can go ahead and sign up. We have a link ready for you, and we are offering this for $40 for the whole experience.
Absolutely. And we hope you'll join us. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great group of moms of special needs kids. So we all get each other. We all have an understanding of what it's like to have something on our to-do list, but just we haven't been able to tackle it yet. So I hope that you will join us. We're super excited to bring this to you, and we are thrilled to work with you.
All right. We'll see you all there. Hi, I'm Kara Riska, life coach, wife, and the mother of 4 incredible and unique kids. It wasn't all that long ago that my son received a diagnosis that had my world come crashing down. I completely lacked the ability to see past the circumstances, which felt impossible, and the dreams I once had for my life and family felt destroyed. Fast forward past many years of surviving and not at all thriving, and you'll see a mom who trusts that she can handle anything that comes her way and has access to the power and grace that once felt so completely lacking. I started the Special Needs Mom podcast to create connection and community with moms who find themselves up against what feels impossible. My intention is to spark the flare of possibility in your own life and rekindle the dreams that you hold impossible now. This isn't a podcast about your special needs child. This is a podcast about you. If you're a mom who feels anxious, alone, or stuck, then you are in the right place. Welcome. Hello there, and welcome to the official first interview episode of the Special Needs Mom podcast. Today, our guest is going to be Emily Golden. Emily is a PCC certified coach. And for those of you that don't know the coaching world, that basically means she's awesome. It's professionally certified coaching through the International Coaching Federation. I met her a handful of years ago, and she was just so inspiring to me. She's a mom of 2 kids, and she's going to tell you all about it. And she has a book coming out this year. She's going to tell you about that as well. So I am so excited for you to meet her, and I'll tell you all about how to get in touch with her at the end of the show. Please enjoy. Welcome. Emily, thank you so much for being here today. This has been something I've been looking forward to, and we're finally here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kara. I'm so excited to be here too.
I would love our guest, my guest, to learn a little bit about who you are. So why don't we start with you telling me a little bit about who you are and really give me a flavor for a picture of what your life is like.
Sure. So I am, above all, a mom of 2 amazing children who have some differences. And I only share that because it's part of what has kind of informed my journey. I spent 17 years in the corporate world, climbing the corporate ladder. With every promotion, I was feeling more and more disenchanted and dissatisfied. I kept thinking the next promotion was going to be it. I was going to come alive. But that was, in fact, not the case. In 2015, at the age of 30, how old was I? I don't even remember. I can't put my finger
30s,
on it right now.
In
my 30s, in my 30s, second half of my 30s, I said, I can't do this anymore. And knowing that every moment that I was in the corporate world, I was kind of withering. I started to do some soul searching and take a look at what it was I really wanted to do. And I turned to coaching as a way to explore what I wanted and fell in love with coaching. So in 2015, I started actually studying coaching. Fast forward, here I am. It's 2020, and I am an executive and career coach. I run my own practice, and I absolutely love the work that I do. I work primarily out of my home, and this is pre-COVID. So this transition to everyone working from home is nothing new for me. And I get to do individual one-on-one coaching, group coaching. And I absolutely love the work. And just it having two children who have differences and unique needs has absolutely informed my journey. That's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I think the connection that we have as both coaches and mothers who identify as mothers of special needs children, that was actually my first introduction to you. A mutual friend of ours says, you have to meet Emily. And I'll never forget our first conversation. And it was something that there was a lot in there, but the thing that I'll never forget was how you expressed that you always aim to be over supported. And my mind was completely blown. I was like, oh, wait, what? I hadn't even heard of this concept. I think we've talked about how people, women especially, are chronically undersupported. And that was something that just blew me away. And I loved that you shared that with me way back then. So I guess now we're sharing it with this community as well. Tell me a little bit about that, actually, about your idea.
I think it's really important. So what we mean, you and I, with our coach speak, know what over-supported means. But if we're talking to the general public, what it means to be over-supported is to have essentially a tribe behind you. And this was a major, major breakthrough for me in my early years of working in this work. I used to believe that asking for help, like truly asking for help that would make a difference for me, was a sign of weakness, of failing. I equated asking for help and showing my vulnerability as a sign of weakness. It wasn't something my parents overtly told me or that society necessarily said out overtly, but I picked it up and I owned it. That, on top of being a high achiever, an A+ player, quote unquote, had me doing a lot in my life kind of separate and alone and feeling heroic about it to an extent and also wildly depleted. Working with my first coach, I remember the moment when I was at a breaking point and I said, I'd love to have someone help me with the cooking in my house. The cooking, I hate it. I hate it. I hate having to worry about it. It's like this thing. It's this thing that is always a requirement. It has to get done. What is wrong with me that I don't like it? I look at my friends and I feel like a failure that I don't like this thing that it seems like my friends get so much joy from. And my coach reflected, first of all, you're beating yourself up over this thing. And, what might be another way to look at this, another way to look at this, another way to look at this. And I finally, really created this breakthrough for myself and bringing someone in to help me with the cooking. But it was more than that. It was empowering that it was okay. And then letting my husband know that it wasn't just that we were going to bring someone in to help us with the cooking, but that it was going to be a choice that we made as a couple together because it was better for both of us, and that I was going to be happy about it and I was going to feel good about it, as opposed to doing it because I had done that kind of thing before, but I'd always felt embarrassed about it. So just getting overly supported, asking my friends to recognize and acknowledge me when I was feeling depleted. That felt selfish and indulgent and almost
Needy,
shameful.
maybe. Almost needy. Like you need someone to help you, right? That is what comes up for me when I think about the idea, the resistance to it that we have in our culture.
Yeah. Like, what's wrong with you, Emily? You should be able to fill your own bucket, right?
Yeah.
Right? Just go get a manicure and you'll feel better.
Or a massage.
Or a massage, right? Well, you just haven't found the right thing to make you feel better, right? Yeah. And so just getting over supported, whatever that looks like. That's one of the things when I'm working with a client is to really identify what are the unmet needs in that client's life and how can we go about one by one getting those needs met on the regular. It's not a one and done, especially as moms, especially when we've got a child who has special needs. We've got needs too. And if our needs are not being met, how on earth are we supposed to meet our child's needs?
Yeah.
Getting myself radically supported and then getting my children radically supported. I mean, that's it. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I think the conversation we had was probably the largest catalyst in what ended up for me inspiring my choice to hire a full-time nanny for our family. And it felt so luxurious. It felt so like, oh, who are you to have a full-time nanny? Where, most of my friends and colleagues, of course, did the traditional either after school care or all the other different options that are available. But we chose a full-time nanny because we could also parlay the food and shopping and all the things into that support for us. And there were so many times where I laughed because we have 4 kids, right? And then, of course, our son that has extraordinary needs. And I say extraordinary because truly all the appointments that we go to, it's extraordinary how those add up and the time and the what it takes to be able to manage the house, the children, and to actually have 3 adults juggling these kids was it many times necessary. Still feels a little indulgent, but it was so wonderful to say, wow, I am so glad we have 3 adults to handle this right now because we needed to be in 3 places at one time and we could. It was amazing. So thank you for that way back when.
Yeah.
So I want to actually share with us, for as much as you want to share about your kids specific, not necessarily about your kids, but really about how you identify as a mom with children with special needs. Mm-hmm. And maybe just especially because this will, of course, go live during when we're still all being very impacted by all that COVID has brought. Mm-hmm. Tell us, you mentioned, of course, you work from home. We work from home. But how is having your kids at home, how are you managing that? So I guess that's 2 questions. First, tell us a little bit about how you identify as a mom of special needs kids. And secondly, how is it going at home for you now?
Yeah. Well, I think the easiest way for me to answer that question is to just share a little bit about my 2 children and their differences and kind of my journey around that. Yeah. So my daughter is my oldest and she's now 15 and a half. And at the age of 5, we noticed at the age of 5, she had a rapid onset of tics, neurological tics. We didn't know anything about tics. She was quickly, the onset was so fast and furious. It was undeniable. And I kind of gave myself a crash course in learning about tics. It quickly became obvious that she also had other symptoms that correlated with Tourettes Syndrome. And as we put the pieces together, we recognized she probably had tics since about the age of 2, maybe even before. By the time we got the diagnosis, it typically takes about a year from the day parent recognizes tics and takes child to doctor to get the diagnosis, and it's a clinical diagnosis. By the time we got the diagnosis, I had lost 10 pounds. I was completely gutted by everything I read. There was no good news out there. There was no, like, at least not that I could find. And that's probably because my brain was collecting evidence for all the possible negative outcomes.
Yeah. Why this is threatening to your life as you knew it. Yeah.
Yeah. I felt completely victimized by this thing that I knew nothing about. No one in the family had, at least I didn't know anyone in the family had tics. Fast forward, turns out we now know that there are people in the family who have tics. I knew nothing about this disorder. I was scared out of my mind. I my anxiety was through the roof. And I was scared out of my mind. Looking back now at that woman, I don't even recognize her. She's like a shell of me. I am proud to say. So what I'll say fast forward is that I became, even in my pain, a fierce advocate to get my daughter every possible support I could, and I stopped at nothing. One thing that came out was like this fierce mama bear. It was like we went to numerous different doctors, and I knew what was outside of my scope, and I got her lots of support. Knock wood, she's doing incredibly well. And I also recognize who she is and who she's not. A lot of my growth was in the reckoning of who she is and who she's not. A lot of my growth was in probably the growth of most parents of neurotypical children, that that reckoning of, you know, I want my kid to be, or I think my kid is going to be a certain way. And then my kid grows up and they are the way that they are. And I wanted them to be X, and it turns out they're Y. And, you know, if I could just control and manage them more, they'll be more like I wanted them to be. See, at the age of 5, I was presented with, no, this is how your child is. Your child is different. It was the greatest blessing in disguise. I didn't know it at the time. Fast forward 3 years later, Max, who's 3 years younger, gets diagnosed at the same age, at 5. I knew at the age of 2 that he had it as well. I could see. The journey has been nothing short of extraordinary for me. And I am not saying it has been easy. It has been anything but easy. These children are a reminder to me as a mother of the imperfections of humanity. These children are a reminder that no matter how much we tell ourselves we want control and we want predictability and we want certainty, we don't have it. That is not the human condition. We're not meant to have it. I'm sorry if you hear some noise in the background.
It's all good.
My dog is barking. The journey has been so much about me growing into myself as a mother that is accepting of most of it, right? I have my moments, and teaching my kids to accept themselves. We have our challenges, we have our struggles. TS, like many disorders, is an umbrella diagnosis with many comorbidities. We've got anxiety, which impacts learning. You know, we've got learning impact, which is separate from the anxiety, which is hard to even distinguish on its own. We've got some obsessive stuff, which falls under the anxiety, but also has some differences. We've got executive function, like attentional stuff that we deal with. And the one thing I'll say to anyone who is listening is, when as a parent, you notice you are comparing your child to other children, you are comparing yourself, and that is just really an extension of you comparing yourself as a parent.
Yeah.
Press pause, take a deep breath, rewind, and shift your thinking. It is never useful. You are going to get nothing out of it. Whether you're comparing and winning, quote unquote, or comparing and losing, it's not a healthy thing. We are all here. We are all divine, and we all have different gifts, right? So it's about the journey, and it's about loving what is, and it's about teaching to that child and honoring the gifts. So that's been the experience. I coming from a long line of perfectionists in my family, I believe that God has given me these two children as the ultimate gift of imperfection, reflecting back to me my own imperfections. And that's
yeah. And I'll let you answer the other question in a second, but really relate to accepting who your child is and isn't. I think that one process as an adult, as a parent, actually accepting all the things in our life for what they are and are not, but especially with all that surrounds being the mother of your specific child. And I think that is so powerful. And I'm so glad you shared that and really highlighted that. And I think I shared that about a little bit in my introduction episode about how my story is that my life, it just wasn't what I was expecting. Right. And so when you are not expecting to have that, year-long diagnosis process and that, all that, the resistance and being in the resistance of not accepting what is yet is, I think, where most of the suffering is. Once we accept what it is, and then that opens the door to be able to fall in love with it, right? Yeah. Actually own it and to just be in the moment with them. So thank you so much for that. So before we actually go to the COVID question, I actually want to hear about so you mentioned that year was a process and you were a shell of a person that you are now. And I'm sure becoming coach 5 years ago really impacted that as well. I can only imagine and relate. But how do you see that being the mom that you are with the children that you have been given and gifted, how has that changed you? Tell us more about that.
Oh, I mean, it's changed me tremendously. I was under a false illusion, though I didn't recognize it. I had a belief that I had a lot more control than I actually did. So said simply, these children are my constant reminder of that which I can't control. These children are my constant reminder to surrender. And for me, because I am such a control enthusiast, being reminded to surrender is a reminder to relax and sink into life, to enjoy the calm and the peace that exists out in nature. And they are that every day for me.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of me asking the question, why is this happening to me? I ask, what is this for? How is this for me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really shifts it. It's like it steps out of the victim role of what it feels like sometimes to have, what some could say. And even I definitely felt like, wow, we really got dealt a short straw here when it comes to health. And so in that place, really all we can see is the woe is me, right? But it sounds like really your journey has been turning that narrative, shifting that narrative, and really asking what the gift was and how is it helping you? What's it giving you that you wouldn't have otherwise?
And Kara, I'll just put this in. My family and my lineage is we're not new to the challenges of health issues. My mother and in her lineage, we don't know exactly if it's on her mom's side or her dad's side, but we know it's on mom's lineage. And she has passed it down to me and my sister, and if we think all of our children. We have a connective tissue disorder, and it's pretty significant, and it has impacted all of us in significant ways. This health issue has impacted all of us. I see it so clearly that the mindset we have around it is everything. My mother has lost 4.5 feet of her small intestine, her entire colon. She has a bag, right? You would never know it if you talked to this woman. If you met her, she's the youngest 70 something that you have ever come in contact with. The energy she holds, the optimism about the future, even now, is like magnetic. And the reason is that she chooses it every day. And she doesn't have to, but she chooses it. So that's my role model.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad that you have a role model. And actually, that's one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to start this podcast, is to, whatever the difference is in all of our stories, right? But we all can look to each other, not in comparison, as you mentioned, but in admiration and inspiration. And I think learn from one another how we're processing the life that we have, and where are we resisting acceptance and all the kind of things. So thank you so much for putting that in.
Do you want me to go back to the
the COVID thing? Yeah. Let's
okay. So I'm going to tie it back to the accepting what is and what isn't. My husband and I were walking around the block a couple of weeks ago with the dogs, which we find ourselves doing quite often these days. And we were lamenting that it would be so lovely if our kids would ride around with their, ride on their bikes together around the neighborhood and spend more time together and get creative together, because they are at a point right now in their development where they tend to fight when they're together these days.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
And we were trying to we were like, why do they fight so much? It would be so nice if they were a different way. And, why does Maddie spend so much time in her room? And how come Max loves his video games so much more than he would, than going to the pool down the block? And we were in this conversation, and I said, whoa. This is not useful for us.
Yeah.
This is everything that we don't want to be. And we were in a moment of feeling sorry for ourselves and feeling sorry for the state of the world. We are parents who send our children to sleepaway camp for 7 weeks. We're very fortunate that we've been able to do this and that our kids have found a great camp that they love to go to. That is not happening this summer. And that is a heartbreak for them and for us.
Yeah.
So they are home, and we were kind of licking our wounds. And we quickly turned the narrative around. And it's back to that accepting who they are and what they are and what they aren't. That does not mean that Max plays video games all day and that Maddie is holed up in her room all day. There are boundaries and there are rules, and there is an acknowledgement that we, mom and dad, and grandparents have never lived through a moment like this. So what I keep saying is we have to have compassion and we have to have empathy. And we have to get that what they're experiencing is unique and that they're in their own pain right now, that they can't be doing the normal things. We have to honor that. And
I was going to say, honoring our child's own experience. I think that's been something that I've been noticing now as the emotional needs of the kids. As we are in our own process as an adult, right? But as these kids are mourning the losses that COVID has brought and questioning, they have even less perspective than we do on how this is going to look in the long term. That's been something that I've been really focusing on as well. So carry on.
And watch, and we all need to watch ourselves shoving our perspective down their throats.
Yeah.
Our perspectives are our perspectives. We've had years on this planet. Our parents' perspectives are their perspectives, right? So it's managing that. It's accepting who the child is. one of the things that's going on in my daughter's room is she's a makeup artist. She's creating looks all day long. It's beautiful. And instead of me making her wrong and bad for not seeing the light of day some days, instead I'm asking her, how can I support this thing that you're doing? Yeah. Instead of me saying, if I were your age, I'd be outside running 6 miles a day. I'm saying, wow, this is awesome. How can I make this, better and, grow this thing in you? And vitamin D is good for you. So let's figure out a way to get you motivated to get outside, to get some vitamin D. Maybe you can bring your makeup outside and do some do some makeup outside and get some vitamin D. Maybe get some exercise. Do some TikToks out there. I don't know.
I love it. Yes. It sounds like really, again, it's such a great visual for us to really see about embracing who they are and not trying to make them someone that they are not. Right. And, I think for any mom, really looking at what their children are interested in and actually like encouraging it and not trying to make it what you think it should be.
Yeah.
What about for Max?
Same kind of thing. With Max, it's more about us putting boundaries in place around the video games, being a little bit more prescriptive, because left to his own devices, he'll be playing on the video games all day. So being more prescriptive, you have, if you want to play on the video game for 2 hours, you have to go run 2 miles or ride your bike for 4 miles or something like that. We kind of make deals. And then he's been a little bit better about going down to the pool. Our pool is open as long as you're wearing a mask when you're not swimming. And so we've, it's slow and steady. And yesterday was a really indulgent day where he played video games most of the day. And today is a reset. So it's like the forgiveness from day to day, and not holding a grudge, if you will. I mean, I see sometimes my husband gets really frustrated and really annoyed, more so than I do, around that. Because I guess I'm not holding the candle of perfection. One of my friends said to me early on, we're crisis schooling, we're crisis parenting. So I'm not looking at this as like, we got to do this thing perfectly. Like I gave that up long ago. But my husband can sometimes get like holding the grudge a little bit. And, so it's like, no, today's a new day. Today's a fresh day. Let's restart.
Definitely. I think we all need to remind ourselves of the opportunity for fresh starts, for forgiveness, for compassion. Yes, to all of that in all life, but definitely in COVID life. I want to switch gears a little bit. And I know you coach primarily executives, but I know from my own journey, being coach and becoming coach has been the thing that has been the biggest gift and way that I've supported myself through being a mom of the child and children that I have. And so I wanted to get your take on like how you being coach, how that impacts you parenting the kids that you have.
It's everything. I'll be completely transparent. At the age of 9, I was diagnosed with learning disabilities myself, and my mother, who was a big advocate of what was called self-esteem back in the day, got me on the couch. I always had a therapist, and I was always talking about my feelings. And I was always known as like, quote unquote, emotionally intelligent, whatever they meant that.
That's way back, Yeah,
like way back.
About EQ back then.
Right. Like, right. Whatever it meant to my parents, they were like, you're very emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
And so therapy was I was no stranger to therapy. And it had a cap. There was a cap on what therapy did for me. I got a lot of value from it. And this is not to say that therapy isn't a wonderful healing modality.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't need healing at the point that I was at 5 years ago. I needed something different. I needed a catalyst to grow. I wanted something that was going to push me forward. And when I found coaching, it was the thing. How has coaching shifted my parenting or changed my parenting? It's overhauled it. I mean, I relate to my children from their highest and best selves. I am not relating to my kids as a problem. I'm not relating to them as something that needs to be fixed or broken. They are whole and complete. They are love. And that's everything. I mean, truly, I relate to my clients that way as well, which just makes life so much more, like everything so much more fun and enjoyable. There's more room in parenting. There's more room for me in parenting because of the coaching that I've received, what I've learned about coaching, the coaching I continue to get. I will have a coach from now until forever.
Mm-hmm.
And of course I have a therapist as well. Like I see a therapist when I need, when I'm facing resistance or hitting a big block, absolutely I'll consult with my therapist, but it's more of a like fly in and fly out as opposed to that consistent, like push forward. Someone who is standing for my greatness and sees my greatness and is holding the candle of possibility. How else has it changed my parenting? I think it's like being able to see all that's right and all that's good with my children and being able to honor their beauty, and honor their gifts, to recognize, like I can see when I'm with friends, I can see when they are imposing undue suffering and struggling upon themselves as parents, and really adding angst to their own journey. And it like pains me, but of course I'm not their coach, right? So I just love them and I listen. Every once in a while, a friend will turn to me and be like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, ugh, it's like, let's focus on what's working. Cause like the thing is, when we can focus on what's working and really extract more of what's working, our kids benefit so much.
Yeah.
My daughter texted me one day. I remember it was like the early part of her freshman year of high school, earlier this in 19. And she texted me. She's like, "Mom, I'm really needing a life coach this year. We got some girl drama going on, and I'm really needing a life coach to just help me to understand what's going on here." And I laughed and I thought, gosh, I hear the way she talks to her friends sometimes.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Work works.
Yeah. I mean, I can just only imagine you as a mom with the language that you've developed as a coach, being able to, I don't know, like I just kind of picture it as like showering it over these kids, not like you said, you're not their coach. So it's not the direct coaching, but even just the ability to see through, as I'm sure you've done your own process with, and being able to share that light with your kids by default, right? Almost. And I really love what you said. And I think like to really summarize what a coach does, it is reflects to somebody as their greatness and stands for their possibility. Mm-hmm. And I think standing for the greatness of our kids and accepting who exactly they are, I think that's the thing that really opens the gate for love and allows you to just love them who they are, but then also not let them, I myself have, it's hard knowing the line of when to push your child. Mm-hmm. And when, because my son has a physical disability. So there's a legitimate disability where mm-hmm. he physically cannot do some things, mm-hmm. but he also physically can do a lot, right? So it's like the standing for his greatness is actually really teaching him to reflect on who he is and how he's relating to himself. Mm-hmm. And then him choosing what he can do. Because even a lot of times now, he, from a mental standpoint, decides he can't do something. And for me as a mom, it's hard to navigate, especially when we're trying to do family activities. And I know he's very capable and he would actually love it. And so he fights. Then we go do the thing and he's very happy about it. So it's that dance with standing for possibility, reflecting to them as or relating to them as their greatness, and then being in all the mess that comes in between.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that choosing from, like, are you making the choice from fear? Or are you making the choice from courage?
Yeah. Yeah. Or pay. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. I want to know something that you find that people most misunderstand. So I imagine a lot of your community, you have, other moms that do have children with special needs. I'm sure a lot of them don't. What are the things that you feel that have you feel the most misunderstood, or even what specifically do people most misunderstand about your kids specifically, and kind of make assumptions? What do you notice?
Hmm. Um, I don't know if it's like an assumption, but it always interests me. I wouldn't say it bothers me because I know it's on their side, but it always intrigues me when people feel like they're like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, really? You are? Because that's interesting. You're so sorry? Like,
How do you respond if people say that?
um, huh, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I respond. I'm not. This child is a gift.
Yeah.
And they're kind of taken aback. And it's pretty bold of me to say that. Um, and I feel on behalf of my children and other parents of kids that have differences, it's my responsibility to like not pity. Like that does not feel that actually creates a disparity. And I don't want that. It's like, don't feel like, don't be sorry.
Yeah. I totally get it. And I do think I've kind of been diving a little bit more into like inclusion conversation, and my son with special needs is going into 6th grade, which here in California means he's going to a middle school versus elementary school. And for us, it's brought a lot of, for me, fear, if I'm very honest, but just new challenges, new circumstances that we're trying to decide how to be with. Mm-hmm. And so the inclusion has been something that I've really been looking at differently, and really diving into different communities and recognizing that culturally, our culture views different people as more valuable than others. And it's heartbreaking to say that. But it is true. I mean, we see this obviously with the conversations right now, and the anti-racism and what we're doing, hopefully, as a country. And we see it with kids that have intellectual disabilities, that it's like, oh, I'm sorry, and they're considered less valuable of a human. And so I think you're just getting a taste of this, right? Of a child that has a need that's different than other people's, or a difference, and it's just assumed to be a bummer or less than. And while we don't deny it doesn't have its own challenges, and we've had, we're in that culture, so I've had my own journey with this, but it sounds like that's kind of what comes up sometimes with people, and then you get to respond and actually stand for like, nope, I'm not sorry. Like, it's been hard, but a lot of things in life are hard. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And kind of as we start to wrap up, I want to know what you would, we've talked a little bit about some of the challenge. We talked a lot about accepting our life as it is, but I want to know what you would tell anybody listening that might be in a place where they're not fully accepting. They're not yet where you've gotten to as far as really loving your kids deeply. And what would you have to say or share, and what would you want people to know?
The first thing is you're exactly where you need to be.
That's a good one.
It's perfect where you are. Be where you are. Accept where you are. No need rushing it. Be in your process. it is a process. One of the things that was most useful to me was to speak with someone who could hold a candle of possibility. I spoke with a mom who was a few years ahead on the journey, whose kids were she had twin girls, and they were doing really well. That was very, very helpful for me. It was very contrary to what I was reading online.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have someone who can hold the possibility for you. Get yourself supported. Manage your brain when it's going to Google and look for worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Remember I don't know who said this first, but I've picked it up and kind of adopted it. You bought the plane ticket for Paris and you wound up in Amsterdam.
Mm-hmm.
Both are beautiful cities. Amsterdam is where you're supposed to be. You just didn't know it. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a religious person. Trust in spirit or something that this is meant to be. You are the one chosen for this. My mom said to me at the very beginning, these children have been chosen to be yours.
Mm-hmm.
You have been chosen to be their mom. And just hearing that and having that said to me and really taking that in empowers me like every day, like on the low days, because I'm not done. I am not baked. I think about the future, and sometimes I can go future tripping and get scared out of my mind. And I think about that and I'm like, I'm uniquely prepared for this. I'm the one who's been chosen. Right? So, and the last thing I'll say is, again, get yourself supported. A therapist, a coach, both. It's not an either or conversation necessarily. Groups of other people. You are not alone. Don't try to fix your kid. Love your child. Support your child.
Yeah. Whoa. That was some solid advice. And, as coaches, we are specifically trained not to give advice. But I think as a mom, we don't follow that rule. And as a mom, well on her way on this journey. And wow, every one of those I think was so powerful. And I hear the evolution of self-trust, like that was a huge part of your journey. And I think that's going to be part of all of our journeys. One as a mom, but really the trusting that we are enough to parent these children, that they are enough to live in this world. And so I don't know, that word trust really just came up to me as you were sharing all those amazing points of advice. So thank you. And we talked a little bit ago, and I heard you're up to some really exciting things in your own business. And I really you're releasing a book, which is like the most amazing accomplishment at the end of this year. I would love to hear more about that. Tell us all you can.
Sure. Well, I'll be brief. The New Golden Rule is my book. It will be released on Amazon and a few other retailers on September 15th. And the New Golden Rule essentially is to treat yourself the way you want others to treat you. So it's all about giving yourself that which you desperately need. When you can take care of you, be good to you, be kind to you, you're able to that much more effectively take care of others. And it's really written for moms, for dads, for professionals. I work, as you said, with executives or really anyone in the career front, on the career front. So I talk a lot about emotional intelligence, the impact of empathy in the workplace. And the book is 1/3 my story, which it's kind of weaved throughout. 1/3 client vignettes, which talks about examples of people that I've worked with and the breakthroughs that they've experienced. And then 1/3 my coaching process and how the work of emotional intelligence plays in. So I'm very excited about this. I feel like I am in labor and delivery, giving birth to my third baby. So if anyone who's listening is interested in this book, learning more, they can absolutely, I know you'll have in your show notes or whatever, go to my website, which it's golden-resources.com, and they can contact me that way.
Is that the best way to get in touch with you for anyone wanting to connect directly with you? Yep.
So it's golden-resources.com. Okay. And on my website, you'll see my email address. There's a website contact form, and anyone can reach out to me. Absolutely.
Thank you. That book sounds like required reading for most anybody, but I think to me, it sounds like it's going to be so applicable to us mamas that are moms of special needs kids. I think that that's as we kind of wrap up, it's like the concept of filling your own cup, right? That it's not selfish, it's actually required, right? And it's really shifting the story of, even it's funny as you talk about, you said something when you were explaining your book that it made me a little like, is that okay? Like to give yourself the, how you want to be treated. And it just it's so automatic that, I don't want to say brainwashing, but the culture that, no, we have to be selfless. And especially as a mom, I think that's the thing that, you and I and a lot of other moms are actually shifting that narrative and noticing when we have that resistance. And so it sounds like this book is going to be just fantastic. And I will be scooping it up. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll give this to everybody I know. This sounds amazing.
Well, I talk about why it is not actually selfish to take care of you. And I'll also just leave your listeners with this and leave you with this. I don't want my daughter to get the message that she should not be taking care of herself because it's more important for her to take care of other people, and for her to live her life feeling depleted because someone said she should worry about herself last. No, don't want it. Don't want it for her.
Yeah, I love it. Taking a stand. And I'm right there with you. So Emily, thank you so much. I personally thoroughly enjoyed this. And I know everybody that listens is going to get a lot of value from it. So we'll bring it back. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Kara.
Of course. Thanks. So there you have it. That's the end of our show for today. And I'm so glad you were with us. I have one quick favor to ask you. It is the request to subscribe and to share. And of course, please leave your feedback. I want to hear from you. I want to know more of what you want, more of what helped you, and of course, more of what touched you. One more thing before we officially wrap up this show. Sometimes when I'm listening to podcasts, I have the experience of wanting more. I'm listening at the very end thinking, I sure wish that episode didn't end. I invite you, if you feel in any way the same way, I invite you to the Special Needs Mom podcast community, which is a free group that I host on Facebook, where we as a community of fellow moms who listen to this podcast and are experiencing life in similar shoes, get to talk to one another, get to share stories, get to actually interact. I hope you'll consider joining. See you over there.